Mic check.
Mic check.
And for our first presentation tonight, we're going to get an operations update from Operations Sections Chief John Owings and John Frederick.
Hi, good evening, everybody. John Owings, Operations Section Chief, and my partner, John Frederick, to give you a current situation of the fire. So where the fire sits right now, it's mainly in between the Patterson Creek drainage and up on the ridge just north of Kidder Creek. And as we move back around, actually toward the south there, the fire has come up out of Kidder Creek, where it spotted a couple days ago, and is challenging this ridge system here that goes out toward the Mill Creek Lakes out that way. We have firefighters currently on staff right now that are handling the lines. We have firefighters who have gone direct, which means cutting a direct line along the northern edge of the fire. They were able to seek opportunity to grab that a couple days ago, and we're continuing with that effort there. Like I said, it is still being challenged out ahead of them, where the wind has just pushed it up and over, and it has spotted a little bit to the south of that, thrown a couple of spot fires over there, which we are handling with aircraft currently. We're hitting it with fixed-wing air tankers and with helicopters, with the plan to put firefighters in there to secure that line and put it back up on this ridge, and the plan to move it back out that way and come back down into the wilderness and secure edge in a full suppression strategy over the north and west end of the fire. Moving over toward the east, we have our containment lines up here north or south of Kidder Creek and north of Kidder Creek. We were able to go direct with direct line construction up out of Kidder Creek, and that is almost complete, going back up to tie in to the dozer line at the top of that ridge there between Kidder and Mill Creek. On the south of Kidder Creek, we have our containment line out here, just on the ridge system south of Kidder Creek, where the fire was challenging the edge there. And so what we did was we put firefighters up there, hotshot crews and Gulf Strike Team crews to get ahead of the fire and drag a little. What I mean by get ahead of the fire is drag a little bit of fire ahead of it and nurse it down so it doesn't challenge our line and build that defensible space there. They're about 700 feet from completing it down there, and we intend to bring it back and tie it back into the main fire to secure this south edge of Kidder Creek there. As we go on the south side of that ridge back toward Patterson Creek, we have mainly direct line construction coming up out of Patterson Creek, what we're calling the lower Patterson Creek Road, and coming back up into tie into where the crews had brought the fire back down into Kidder Creek. It did slop over that line last night, and we were able to actually go direct and cut out that line and secure it back in there. So we do have line around this portion of the fire, as well as it's holding in the lower Patterson Road area up toward the end of the road. We have some unsecure line up in here where we're trying to seek opportunity to put firefighters in there, being supported by helicopters and air tankers to cool the edge in this very steep and rugged terrain in the old Wallow Fire burn scar, and try to continue to go direct on that there. We have some backup lines to fall back to. As you can see on here, there's a lot of backup lines that we have created to protect the communities down in Kidder Creek and Etna, as well as all the way over in Quartz Valley area and Greenview, that if our primary control lines aren't successful, we can fall back to those and we can catch it there. We've also built a line up to Whiskey Butte because there's a very large drainage that comes in there. If the fire gets into that, that's our plan, is to have folks poised to get ahead of it and stop that fire from challenging that line. As we work further south, we'll be going down and seeking opportunity again to go direct. We have a plan in place for that, and as well maintaining our full suppression strategy and building backup lines pretty much all around the whole perimeter of the fire. And now I'll address evacuations at this time too. We have had evacuations in the Kidder Creek area and right up near the town of Etna, just around the backside of it, and also in Quartz Valley. And the reason that we did that is because the fire made a really big push a couple days ago, and that pulled a trigger. It hit a trigger point for us, given the long range spotting. It was spotting about a mile and a half ahead of itself. So it was our decision. We had a wind-pushed fire, a wind-driven fire that we saw could potentially impact the community, and we wanted to get those folks out of there. And now I'll pass it off over to John for further.
Good evening, John Frederick, Operations Chief. Right now I'm just going to break down this map a little bit for you guys and just kind of give you a brief overview of how it looks and how we read our map. So our black lines that we have cross hatches, those are our dozer lines. Those are completed dozer lines that are in. So we try to get on top of ridge tops, and that's where we can hold the fire. So that's where we seek to put our dozer lines, our containment lines, and in a thick, steep terrain like this, we want to make sure that we have every opportunity to make sure that we have the best chance of holding that line, and that's where we can hold those lines. So we have mastication lines, so that's the M on here, and then also we have some planned lines as well. These are the purple lines. So that's kind of the way that we break down our maps and how we show the fire's edges in red. And then we have some drop points as well. These are where we stage equipment and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we break down our map. Going now into our structure protection, we have three major structure protection groups that we're working in. We're working in the Quartz Valley, and then the Greenview, and then also in the Edna area. So what we did the other day when the fire did make a push is we ordered a ton of resources to make sure that we had all the structures in the community defended. So we have our main lines that we going direct on this fire, and then we have our secondary lines, and then off of that we even have our contingency lines if those secondary lines don't work. So looking up here, we have the Scott River Road. We're masticating that road. We're using chippers. We're using hand crews to make sure to thin that out. So as we try to hold a road, the less fuel on the road, the easier it is for us to hold. So we're utilizing the crews to work along Scott River Road, and then coming down we have our main line at the base of the mountain. So that's another good place to hold fire is at the base of a slope. That way nothing rolls out or gets on the other side. So that's one of our main secondary lines coming down the Quartz Valley valley here. And then we utilize the road systems as well. So we utilize ridges, we utilize road systems. Anytime we're on the road systems, we try to use the crews to get out there, clean it up. Masticators like a big weed eater that chips up brush, chips up trees, and removes that fuel to give us every advantage that we can to hold that fire. So coming down through here, we have our secondary lines, and then we have our contingency lines out over there. Working into the Greenview area, we have multiple engines that are working through there. So their main job right there is to be ready for the fire when it's impacting the structure. So we have a whole nother shift that is on the fire's edge itself. So that is our main firefighters that are out there going direct on that fire, and then we have that backup the structure protection engines as well. That way, if in the event this does come out into the valley, we have our firefighters that are battling the fire, and then we have our engines that are at the structures ready to protect those structures. So those guys throughout the day, their main job is to get rid of fuel, get familiar with the area, know the road systems, know the water, and then as the fire were to come into there, they'll be ready, they know the area, and we can be successful in defending the houses. So coming down through here, we also have multiple other contingency lines. We have retardant lines on the back side of those contingency lines. So if the fire does challenge those lines, we have something to slow it down and give us an opportunity to extinguish it. So coming down in the bottom here, like he said, we're still trying to work in from the south. We have a spike camp going in, so some of this access is very hard to get to, so we have to hike the crews in, and then it takes them all day to hike in. So that way they can actually get some sleep at night and then wake up again and then go after the fire again without having to walk back out. So that's a spike camp. So we are going all the way down south to Sawyer's Bar Road, utilizing the chippers down there. We're utilizing hand crews down there. We're really taking a big approach on this, and meanwhile, we're really trying to get on this thing where we can. So that's kind of the overview of the structure protection and our contingency lines. But I do want to emphasize that is extra on top of the firefighters fighting the fire direct. Thank you.
Thank you for that comprehensive update, Chiefs. We appreciate it. Next up, we have fire weather with incident meteorologist Julia Ruthford.
Good evening. My name is Julia Ruthford, and I'm going to be giving an update on the upcoming weather pattern. And unfortunately, it has continued to be an extremely challenging, critical fire weather pattern over the area for quite a long time. And there's more problems coming this weekend. The ridge of high pressure that's been bringing us our 2 weeks or more of hot weather is still around. It built in more strongly today. That brought hotter and drier conditions. And combined with that, we did start seeing more of a south-southwest flow. Most of that wind was higher up, but it was enough that it scoured the smoke out, got more sunlight to the ground, and made conditions quite a lot more drier. Quite a lot drier out there. This afternoon we had humidities down into the upper single digits to low teens. Temperatures in the valleys, low hundreds, and even up into the upper 80s to low 90s up on the higher ridges. And we did see some gusty southwest winds down at the surface as well, generally gusting 10 to 15 miles an hour with some 20 to 25 mile an hour gusts in the more exposed locations. We'll see the drier conditions continue tonight, so we're getting back into a pattern where we have very poor humidity recoveries up on the slopes and ridges. Higher elevations will only get up to maximum humidities of 15 to 20% tonight, about 30 to 40 lower down, but that's going to just really continue to dry the fuels that are already extremely dry. For tomorrow, temperatures and humidities are going to be about the same. The winds are going to stay pretty similar, so it's going to be another day where we'll have smoky valley inversions in the morning, but they'll clear out pretty quickly, bringing those dry, windy conditions in the afternoon. Again, other concern this weekend is some thunderstorm chances. They're spreading all the way up California right now. At the moment, they're just a little bit, maybe 50 miles north of Lake Tahoe along the California-Nevada border, but the moisture associated with that going to continue north. For Saturday, we'll be right on the very edge of it. So we'll be seeing some isolated thunderstorm potential, probably staying east of the area, Wairika, Mount Shasta, eastward. So I don't think we'll see any that'll affect the fire area, but they're going to be really close. And the problem with the additional problem with these thunderstorms is with the dry air mass that's been in place for so long, they're going to be extremely dry. Especially with us being right at the very most western edge of where the thunderstorms are at. There's another wave of moisture that will come up Saturday night into Sunday morning, so there's a potential we could see some nocturnal nighttime thunderstorms. Those tend to be high-based, they're pretty fast-moving, they'll move from south to north, and they would have very little precipitation with them. Still pretty uncertain whether or not we'll actually see that piece of it here. So I'd say, 10-20% chance, but I mention it because if it did happen, it is one of those really critical patterns that has happened up here in the past with those nighttime dry thunderstorms. When we move into the more likely chance of thunderstorms is on Sunday. It's looking like isolated to scattered coverage with the thunderstorms over the area, and pretty good confidence that at least in the mountains around here that we'll see some of those forming. Starting late morning would be the earliest, thunderstorm chances, a few isolated storms beginning late Sunday morning and then becoming a lot more, the coverage increasing through the afternoon and evening. Those will initially form along the mountains where you get some extra lift from the convergence, but they will also be fairly fast moving, and that's the day I think we'll see the greatest number of lightning strikes in the general vicinity. Those will also be on the drier side. Underneath the storm cores themselves, probably 1/10 of an inch or less, but those are going to be pretty small footprints. And if we did get a stronger one developing, we might see some really localized 1/4 of an inch out of them. But there would be mini lightning strikes outside where the rain is. So that's why they're considered dry, even though there is likely to be a little bit of spotty rain here and there with them. Those would continue Sunday afternoon and evening, and then there's a very slight chance they might last into Monday, though I think it's that Sunday time period that's going to be the major concern. Also, even if they did come with moisture, the fuels are so very dry following this heat wave, even the areas that did get some rain on it still would be very critical with where the lightning strikes were. Once we get into early next week, we will see a little bit of a cooling trend, a few degrees, not quite so extremely dry, but it's still going to be above normal temperatures and dry conditions. That'll last through about midweek with the general southwest winds continuing. And then the end of the week, it looks possible that the ridge would build back again, so we could go back into this heat wave kind of pattern again in the long range. So apologies for having absolutely no good news with the forecast, but wanted you guys to be aware of what the potential was out there for the weather.
Thank you for that, Julia. Appreciate it. And now for Siskiyou County Board of Supervisors, District 5 Supervisor Ray Hoop. Hout. Apologize.
It's all right, everybody messes up my name. I'm used to it since I was a little kid. I want to say to everybody here, I think the ones that are in this audience probably heeded my warning the other night about evacuation. I appreciate that. I really want to thank you for doing that because you've taken the extra step to get out of the way of the firefighters. I've had countless conversations with people that are just going to stay home. I pray for you. And the reason I say that is because besides the firefighters, how many in this room have been in a firefight before? A couple. Okay, we all have a memory bank of what reality is. And those that are staying behind think, I'm just going to get in my car, I'm going to drive right out my driveway and get out of here. You're not going to do that in a firestorm. In a major firestorm, you're going to have gale force winds. You're not going to be able to see more than 15, 20 feet. And you're going to be dodging vehicles coming in that are going to be trying to protect homes. Just keep that in your mind as you think, well, I can stay here and ride this out. I hate to be the downer, but it's reality. And I talked about losing friends in the last 5 years. 2 of them in their car because they drove into their gate, they couldn't see their way out to get out of their driveway, died in their driveway. Another died running from his home in his driveway. So it's serious stuff. Please take it serious. I know it's frustrating. I too am frustrated. I'd like to go back to my home, and this will be over fairly soon. But we got to get through this, and we have to give the firefighters on the ground the best chance possible to protect the property. And you could do that by getting out of their way. So I'll pray for all of you, actually, in this community, and we'll get through this. And there's a brighter day ahead. Thanks.
And thank you for that. Now for our agency administrators with the Klamath National Forest, Supervisor Chris Christopherson, and the CAL FIRE Siskiyou Unit Deputy Chief Kent Cunningham.
I'm a little bit shorter than Forest Supervisor Chris Christopherson. So, hi everybody, I'm Natalie Kelly. I am the acting Deputy Forest Supervisor here on the Klamath, and I will be in that position for about 1 more month, and outside of that position, I'll return back to our district here in Fort Jones. So I am the ranger here on the Sam and Scott River Ranger District, and it's a pleasure to serve all of you today. So, basically, there was a lot of conversations of what's taking place on this map and on the ground. And what really comes to mind for me is there's backups for backups for backups. This team is not only working very aggressive for that strategy to get that fire out, but also providing those contingency plans. And I think that really is going to be our success as we move forward. I had some really good conversations with some of the community members and folks these last week or so, and I know this is very difficult, but I just want to say thank you so much for supporting the responders. Thank you so much for supporting the employees that work here, and just trying to stay out of the way and just kind of move alongside. One of the things I did want to talk about, not just the evacuations, but we do have a forest closure. If you can remind folks to pay attention to that, we really need people to adhere to that so that the fire folks can focus in on where they're working. We can't afford to have any new starts at this point, and we just really need to stick together in that. And I know sometimes closures are a little difficult to the public, but it really is critical for our success. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Leading right into the evacuations and public safety update, I'd like to introduce Siskiyou County Sheriff LaRue.
Thank you. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I appreciate you being here. Again, it's stressful. I understand that. It's hard to know exactly what you're all going through. You all have your own individual stories. And just know that law enforcement, during our briefings, we talk about trying to be compassionate and understand what you guys are going through. So that way, when we're out in the community, we can kind of speak to you at a human level and find out what your needs are. I recognize there's a lot of different agencies you're probably seeing. We have somewhere between 30 or 40 law enforcement officers out in the community right now, 24 hours a day. Many of them are working together in one car, so you probably see them out. We have a variety of different road closures, which I'll get into, but just know they come from different parts of the state. They come from Sacramento and Tehama County. There's people from Shasta County all the way up I-5. And they came here voluntarily because they want to help in a time of need in that moment that we're experiencing. We do the same for other parts of the state. In addition to them, we have, of course, the Highway Patrol that has been awesome to have. They've been very collaborative with us, and we're all working as a really good team. So we communicate nonstop. So I want you to know that we have your best interests in mind during this challenging time. Evacuations are stressful, and as Supervisor Halp mentioned, people want to go home, and we want to get you home. We just have to make sure it's safe in order to get you back. Usually within the first couple days of a fire, people are understanding of what's going on, that there's a fire, people have to get out. As time goes on, people become a little more, I guess, frustrated is a good word, because it may appear that, well, the fire that you said was going to be real close isn't there yet. Why can't we go home? So we understand that you're thinking that. Believe me, no doubts in our minds that you feel that way. But just understand, what I hear a lot when I'm listening to these informational updates is the words if, when. And those make me uncomfortable, because that's what it's all about. What if the fire spreads quickly or makes a run? And you hear about the weather and you hear about the different wind. So all of that information is what we're assessing daily, multiple times a day. And we do not want to send you back into harm's way only to have moments to go back in and try to get you out. So just recognize that while it is frustrating, we understand that we have to ensure that we keep you safe. And that does involve getting you out of the line of fire and blocking roads and closing roads, and a lot of them. There's reasons why we do that, just so you know. It's not to be unfair to you that want to get home. But we have to make sure that people are not looting property, that are not coming in and causing all kinds of, chaos. We have to make sure that fire personnel have the roadways so they can get in and out. As you mentioned, there's all kinds of work being done on the roads. We can't have traffic in there. And, what I will say, the community has been excellent. You guys have done a great job of being good partners with us and listening and collaborating with us. We really appreciate that. Again, I think I've mentioned this multiple times. We cannot be successful at this, getting through this fire, without your partnership. It's not just the government, because we know how that can be. We need you as citizens to be part of this. And you guys have done a great job. We have had some folks that have been a bit difficult, that have been dealt with law enforcement, that have ran our roadblocks, and in some cases actually assaulted one of a neighboring deputy from a different county. That's not going to be tolerated. Those people go to jail. And there's no excuse for that, and we're not going to tolerate that. We have, again, law enforcement from all over the state coming up here, and they are here to help. And we're going to treat them respectfully, or there will be consequences. So, but for the majority of everybody, you guys have done a great job, and I do appreciate that. And again, now a couple things with the road closures. We recognize that we don't want people to go back into the line of fire, but what we're trying to do is establish the ability for you, if you need to get back in to get things, that we make that opportunity available to you. And so that means they're what we call escorts. So we would take you into the locations that are evacuated to get things and to come out. And we will do that. Law enforcement will do that. We also have the availability that we will go starting tomorrow. God willing, we will have people that will go in. If you have pets or anything that you want us to check on, we're going to have the availability of people to go in and check on things for you. I'm going to provide a phone number that will be on the internet later, but just recognize we really want to try to do what we can for you. That's either getting you in there to get things and bring you out, or going in ourselves and checking. Now, we've been doing that anyway because we've been going around numerous times a day, nonstop, patrolling the community, looking to see if anything's out of place, if there's any animals running around, you name it. We've been out there to check on it. So if you have a house in those evacuated areas, just know that we've been spending a lot of time around the community just looking for anything out of the ordinary, or just ensuring that the place is safe and secure. So again, we do have the availability to bring people in and out. We just ask that you don't abuse that in a way that it's going to, put a real, damper on our efforts of being out and patrolling. So, but we want to be there for you, and we are there for you. And like I said, there's people from all over the state that are here in a time of need to be there for you. And again, we want to get you home. I'll leave with that. And thank you for being here. And if you have questions afterwards, feel free to ask, and don't leave till you get your answer to the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate that. With Siskiyou County Office of Emergency Services, I'd like to bring up Director Brian Shonone.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I look out and I see a lot of faces that we've seen in past fires, and that's just kind of where we're at, right? It's that time of year, and it's the worst part of it. So I'm going to go over a couple quick things for you. I think for us, really important, EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. So we take care of everything that is not law enforcement and not fire. So sheltering needs, food needs, you name it, we've got it. We got some toys out to some kids that were displaced. That's always a great, exciting piece, right? We get to bring out toys for the kids from an amazing donation from groups called a VOAD. So a few years ago, one of the things that I saw and I really wanted to push forward was a VOAD for Siskiyou County, and that's a volunteer organization active in a disaster. And they have stepped up. So I want to say thank you to our VOAD. We called about cat crates today, and lo and behold, we have a whole bunch of cat crates from our VOAD. So outstanding group. Also, real quick, I want to say thank you to our partners at Red Cross. They're back there in their awesome Red Cross gear, and they've come up just to be part of our community, be here. When we make that call, Red Cross is here, and it's always fantastic for us. EVAC warning and orders. Sheriff touched on that. We do have orders in place. Whenever we see a red order, we, as the county, push that next to a yellow order. Or, I'm sorry, yellow. You all right over? Good? Yep. All right. So with that, a warning will always touch an order. And the way you can see that is through Genesis Protect or Zone Haven. So years ago, we established Zone Haven throughout the community. We had our fire chiefs, local law enforcement, folks with knowledge of the area help us build zones that were cut up throughout the county. And instead of the days of drawing it out on a map and saying this road to this road, we can just punch that zone and in critical seconds push that evacuation out. It's been a huge tool for us, and I know it's a little confusing for you as the community, but if you look right back there, and my fantastic mustache Owen over there will help you with that, establish your zone and understand where you're at. So with that, Emergency Operations Center. We are at a level 2. Our highest is a level 1. We are on standby if need be, and I get the phone call from Incident Command, and we will upgrade, and if need to go 24 hours, we'll do it. I've had fantastic staff in there taking care of some of the problems that I never ever thought that I would ever think of, but there we go. Like that is our community, is that we can jump in there and take care of that. So with that, I'm going to give you 2 really important phone numbers. So 530-643-3661, and that is to the Emergency Operations Center, 0700 to 7 p.m. 211, much easier to remember. 211 is a great partner. You can call them. All of our information is being fed to 211, so they're going to be able to help you. Sometimes, if you're asking very specific questions to our county, they are operators, and they're not going to be able to know, like, hey, so-and-so's neighbor, right? They're not going to know that. But they'll have all of the information that we're pushing. So very important, great resource, 211. It frees up a lot of our emergency response lines. Displaced. We got about 1,539 people displaced in an order. We know that's difficult. In our warning areas, we have 15 areas in a warning and 10 in an order. Wairika is still our evacuation center. Air conditioned, there's food, there's snacks. It's being run by Red Cross. Medication needs, we have a nurse on staff that can help with that. Also, if you're not getting your medications, call the EOC. We can make sure that gets pushed through and that's taken care of. And then if you have an RV, we can go out to Montague. I know that's not a little bit farther away, but Montague's been gracious. Opened up basically where they had the Freedom Fest, and we have an RV park with lights. And then as more need arises, what we'll do is we'll bring out water and septic and sewer lines. So a couple other things. AQI, Air Quality Index. Right now it's not too bad, right? But this morning, that was terrible. So we've, as the county, have put out a couple more EBAMs. Don't ask me what that stands for. I know it's something neat, but it's basically our air quality measurements. And what that does is that gives us a read on all of the air quality within the Scott Valley. And we have 3 of those deployed out. Scott River Road, as they talked about, they're doing some mastication work out there. And so be careful. If you're out there, which it does a road closure, right? So maybe don't be out there. But if you are, drive carefully and be safe if you're being escorted by a deputy. And then lastly, the one thing I do want to talk about is for us as the county, so as part of the evacuation authority, sheriff is the ultimate authority, but we feed that information to him, that what he's going to need and what he can use to make the best choices in order to push an evacuation as far as population, roads, and routes. So me, as the emergency manager, Siskiyou County OES, one of the things that we really take into account is what we call SEPA, which is an acronym for social, economic, physical, and human capital. Social is everything that we are. This is a social environment. We have our churches, we have our meetings, we have our Little League, we have everything that we know is going to be affected by a disaster. We have our economic side of this. So we have parts of this county that are in order. We know that that is an economic drain on our folks. We also know that being outside of your home, whether it be a hotel, whether it be wherever you're at, that's an economic drain on you as a community. We have the physical part of it. Our critical infrastructure, we have our homes, we have equipment, we have farm equipment that could be affected. Those are all pieces that we take into account. And then the most important, as Supervisor Haupt talked about, is the human capital. One life lost negates all of our others. And that is what we take into account as Siskiyou County OES, who's pushing that information to the sheriff and to the other evacuating authorities. We take that into account to ensure that SEPA is maintained and that we as a community can continue on post-disaster. So community resiliency is really important, and that's one of the things that for me, moving forward, we're trying not to be such a reactive department, but here we are in Siskiyou County, trying to be a proactive community member and also a proactive emergency manager to you out there. So please, ideas on how we can fix that, what we can do to make a more community resilient Scott Valley and a more community resilient Siskiyou County, for me is one of the most important parts of this. So, and as we talked about, and we're going to talk more about it, is disaster risk reduction. And for us, how do we stop this cycle of disaster? Because disaster risk reduction directly equates to community resiliency. And that is, for me, one of the things that we're going to work together as a team and get that pushed. So with that, thank you. I really appreciate you guys being here, and we'll hand it off to the next one.
Thank you for all that important information. We appreciate that. And next we'll have up our Air Resources Advisor, Jill Webster.
Good evening. I'm Jill Webster. I'm an air quality specialist with the Wildland Air Quality Response Program. And I'm here to give you a daily smoke outlook. So this outlook gets posted every morning. I think it goes out on the Facebook page. It goes on NCWeb, and this is what it looks like. And this is basically a projection of what we think the 24-hour air quality index is going to be. But as we know, smoke levels change throughout the day. So if you go to the online version of the Smoke Outlook, you can get more of a time stamp for the air quality index. So morning, afternoon, evening, overnight. And, you know, at times like this, air quality is not the first thing on anybody's mind. You have bigger things to worry about. Most of us always have bigger things to worry about. But as wildfire season and wildfire smoke goes longer than anybody wants it to, we really want you to think about planning your outdoor activities, letting the kids go outside when the smoke has lifted and cleared a little bit, because stress and wildfire smoke can really wear on your health, and we want you all to stay healthy. So my contact information is on the Outlook. Like I said, it gets updated every day. If you ever have any questions, please get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. And for our final speakers, before we get to question and answer, I'd like to bring up Unified Incident Commanders Matt Conklin and Kent Cunningham.
I'm not Matt, I'm Pat. That's Matt. So there's not a whole lot I can add to. A lot of good information, really good update from our ops folks. The only thing I will say is we are going to continue to win. We've been in a full suppression strategy since we started, and the tactics that they've chosen out there are working. We are making good progress. We're not where we want to be. As if Mother Nature wanted to test us, they threw another joker in the deck and gave us possibly some issues with some lightning. But we're gonna push through. We're gonna continue to take care of all the values at risk out there: the homes, the infrastructure, the Marble Mountain Wilderness. That's on our radar to take care of it there. So we're gonna continue. An interesting thing, like the sheriff said about law enforcement coming from all over, we have firefighters here from throughout not only the state of California, but across the United States. To sum it up, really meant something to me was at the camp the other night. I was washing my hands, and some firefighters came up to me from Pasadena, Glendale area, and I knew some of them, and I said, hey, thanks for coming up, and probably a pretty long ride on a fire engine. They said, hey, no problem, they need help up here, and this is what we're going to do. So we're in it to win it, and we're going to be here. We're going to continue the strategy that's going to be successful. Thank you.
So Kent Cunningham, one of the unified incident commanders on this fire. And to dovetail into what Pat was talking about, we're getting some wins, all right? It's that give and take. Some days we grab more than others. Fire wins a little bit, but we don't give up, okay? I can't guarantee you when we're going to get this wrapped up, but I can guarantee you that we're unified as a team. We're unified in our message. We're unified in our plan. And we're unified that we're going to stick this out until we get this done and we get you back where you belong. We've got a great plan, and we're going to see it through to the end. When you do me a favor for these firefighters that are out there putting it on the line, when you don't see a lot of smoke in the air, give them a hand. When you see a giant column building, put your hands together and say a prayer, because they're in there getting after it, doing everything they can to protect the natural resources and your structures. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chiefs. Now we're going to enter our question and answer, and how we'd like to organize it is we're going to get a public information officer to run a microphone for us, and we'll take 3 questions from this side, 3 questions from this side, and then we're going to take some from online to make sure those people who couldn't come to the area can get their questions answered as well.
My question was a concern. I heard that we had one injured firefighter with this fight. Do you know anything about that?
Operations or IC?
We've had 2 reportable injuries. Yesterday we actually had a firefighter that had a fractured leg that we had to hoist out of the fire here in Patterson Creek. And then Sunday, about a week ago almost, we had a firefighter coming down the hill that twisted their ankle and was able to ambulatory come off the line by themselves, but otherwise had to go home and take some rest.
Thanks, Chief. Next, on this side, is there another one back here?
Thank you. So this one's in relationship to the disaster risk reduction. And it may be for Ray Haupt, I don't know. But to get a timber harvest plan has taken over a year in some cases, and some of us have property that has 14, 15 truckloads of logs. In order to get those logs out and have less risk, we need something expedited. And I don't know if y'all know this, if it's a dying stand, it's quick. If it's live stand, great delays. So I just hope someone can address that.
I guess somebody wants a forester. There are some expedited timber harvest practice rules for reduction in fuels hazards. There's that Senator Dolly put in place 3-4 years ago now, where if you have 2,500, up to 2,500 acres on one of them, to do that kind of thing, it's basically thinning and an expedited process to get that out. Unfortunately, you know, for most of us, we're at the mercy of the timber market all the time, whether or not it's you know, a profitable situation. Chris and I have been talking already about grant processes to treat some of this land behind here after the fire's gone, and we'll pursue some of that too, and I think he's got something to say about that too.
You bring up a great point, and I own some timber property over the hill in Fall River Mills, and I've been working with NRCS with the EQIP program. It's been an exercise in patience. As a government agent, I understand bureaucracy, and NRCS has less staffing than what the Forest Service has. However, I now understand the process, and I am willing to speak to anyone here that wants to know more about EQIP and NRCS and getting funding for actually fireproofing your property, and then treating the brush afterwards, and then follow-up treatments. And so I'm here. I can talk EQIP. I can talk about disaster reduction. And so thank you for the question.
And a third one on this side. We have a third question. I thought I saw a hand earlier. All right, moving to this side.
What I have to say, it's not directly related to this fire, but it has everything to do with fire safety in the Scott Valley. A few years ago, we had the Pastures of Heaven rural fire depot where they kept fire trucks. That property changed hands. The new owner didn't want to house the fire truck anymore. Greenview has lost their storage for their fire truck, from what I understand from somebody in the rural fire department. They've been waiting over a year to get plans approved to build a new building. You got to have an insulated building, because when you put water in a fire truck and you get sub-freezing weather, it doesn't work. Water comes out, not ice, right? And so I believe, and I hope I get this right, I don't think we should take from Paul anymore from Peter, or vice versa, steal from Peter to pay Paul. Everybody is on equal footing. But when you look at this issue, we should be looking at it in a different light, because there's two things going on. Fire safety in the valley, and it wouldn't help with this fire up in the PCT, up at Shelly Lake area, but it might help in the next one if we had these areas operable. Secondly, when Pastures of Heaven closed down, I can only speak for myself, but in the first time my insurance renewed, I went all the way to a level 10, which is the top floor. After that, I'm California Fair Plan, and my insurance premium went up several thousand, not the premium, but the increase was several $1,000s. So I'm assuming that's affecting hundreds, if not thousands of people. So we have the economic issue that goes on each year, that we don't have these fire housing units, or whatever they're called, that'll hold these tanker trucks. And then we have the risk of future fires. So I would ask Ray Haupt if there's anything we can do with the building department, if there's anybody here from the rural fire department. I'm told when I talk to individuals, no, it's just the way it is. They're not hiring, they're not outsourcing plan checkers, and it just has to stay in the queue, along with everybody else, like Paul or Peter, that's putting up a house. He has the same priority as an issue like this. And in my view, it shouldn't be that way, because of the fire risk and the economic risk that affects hundreds of people. So I don't know, Ray, if there's anything, if talking to the Planning Commission, which I haven't yet, but if there was a group meeting, I would, or the rural fire department. To me, this is a no-brainer. These are just metal buildings, and it shouldn't be protracted like it is.
Okay. Michael Kobseff and I, the supervisor from District 3, I believe, and I have been working with Rick Dean, who's hiding in the back corner back there, who has the building department underneath him. What we've done in the county, because of the number of homes we've lost and structures and that kind, to reduce the length of time to rebuild, is we have pre-approved plans now where you go in and take them off the shelf and go build your house. You can also, and they're in 3 different categories, roughly. I know he can speak to this better than me. 3 different categories of size and arrangement of rooms and those kinds of things, and you can move some things around to customize it for yourself, as long as you don't change the structural aspects of the architect's plans. And that's a less than a 1 month turnaround. Yeah, less than 1 month turnaround on those. The building department 2 years ago was looking at almost 16 to 18 months. No, 2 years. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Now if you submit approved plans, or excuse me, complete plans, which is often what I hear at the lumberyard. Everybody submits plans, but they're not complete. In other words, they're not sufficient to meet the building code standards. That's a lot of back and forth and back and forth, and that's, I think, a little bit what you're referring to. But if you submit a complete plan, you're down to how many weeks now for approval? About a month. Okay, that's remarkable compared to where this county was just a couple of years ago. And a lot of it is the streamlining we have done as a Board of Supervisors with the regulations because of all of the homes that we've lost and the rebuilding we've had to do.
Just a fast interjection. Now, I'm going only by what I was told. Can you use the mic, please? Sorry. Just a fast interjection. I'm going only by what I was told, but the building for the fire, to store the fire truck in Greenview, I thought that was already pre-approved at another site, and they just need to now use it in Greenview. That's what I was told.
Maybe Rick knows that specific. I don't. I'm not. I'm up here at the 30,000 foot level down here in individual plans, and maybe he has the details on that. Sorry, Rick.
That's quite okay. Yeah, thank you. That was a very good overview of our pre-approved plans that we have. The specific project that you're talking about has been in process for 2 years. We've been working with Mr. Lindholm and elsewise. They haven't gotten in a complete set of plans yet. It's basically where we're at with it. But we are allowing, as you mentioned, there was metal buildings that were taken down in other locations in the valley. We're allowing that structure to be placed into Greenview. Once you get everything together, it'll be issued shortly. But it's give and take, as Supervisor Hout said, right? Everybody's got to come to the table, get everything complete to us, and then we will issue that permit.
When it comes to this, isn't there a cookie cutter kind of building that you'd use to house these water trucks? So you have the building already pre-approved, right? And it can be in a dozen locations to hold 2 trucks or 3 trucks or whatever it is.
How about if I get together with you offline after this, so this doesn't take up the meeting? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time with all these folks after the question and answer, so you can come up to the map and ask specific questions. We do have about 5-10 minutes left because we've got to get these operations folks back out to work. So if we could focus on the Shelly Fire questions, that would be great.
So one quick question. I'm pastor of 3 different churches in Scott Valley and in Wairika. A lot of people are praying for all of you. Thank you for the good work that you do. The question I have perhaps for OES, I've had a lot of folks reach out to me wondering how they can help. Is there somebody in particular I can contact, or any of us can contact, that we can help to organize some of that and get resources where they need to be?
Thank you. That is amazing. And that is what a community is. And I love that. So I'm going to point you back right there. And that is what and why we have a VOAD, Volunteer Organization Disaster, Active in Disaster. So faith-based fits right into that. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is fantastic. And then real quick, while I have the mic, because I don't know if I'm going to get it again, right there we got some N95s. If you need one, Owen will hand one out. If you need a couple, grab them. And then I wanted to bring Rick Dean up one more time. No.
Okay, one more question on this side.
Yes, my question is for whoever wants to answer it, is that there are 2 very large zones in the northern part of this fire. And the 2 gentlemen that spoke, you gave great information. I thank you for telling us about all the lines, because it really gives a lot of people some confidence that the fire might not reach their homes. My question is, can we get the same consideration as 2 other zones that went A, B, and C? Because I think the far northern sections of those zones do not need to be in an evacuation mode. That's my opinion.
I appreciate that. I don't know which specific zones, but I'll let you know what we do. So every day we get together and we have to look at the map, the one that has red and yellow on it, to determine if we can downgrade or if we can split. So those decisions are made constantly. And so we have to take in consideration what fire tells us, what's predicted with the weather, many of the considerations we talked about before. So if we can do that, we certainly will, and as soon as we can. So yes, we do that every day. If there's something specific, we can look at it after this, so you can let me know where it is. But okay, yeah. Well, we will. So we will make the zones appropriate colored, like I said, depending on the factors that we know about. And I will say the considerations for changing a zone will always be based upon public safety. And not any special interests or any other type of criteria. And before I get off the mic, I wanted to let you know about that phone number that I didn't tell you about. So this is the community support line that I talked about earlier with the escorts, and it is 530-643-3660. 530-643-3660. And again, that number is to be called so that we can make arrangements to hopefully get you to an appropriate traffic control point and then get you in and out, or we can make arrangements for animals or anything else that how we can serve you. So thank you.
Yeah, come on up.
I was just reminded something that I forgot in my whole little spiel there. If you've noticed on Watch Duty, good app that feeds from us, they're having a really big heat signature, and that's getting concerning. We're getting a lot of phone calls on that. So we reached out, and they're having a glitch. So that heat signature is not accurate. That is a very large heat signature. We go to Ready Siskiyou alerts. There's active incidents, and there is up-to-date fire mapping. Whatever they feed us is exactly accurate to that. So there is that glitch. A good source of information. I use it myself, but it's usually what I've pushed. So making sure that I just want to let you know that heat signature, it gets a little scary, and it's also having a little zone glitch as well, and it keeps reducing a zone and then putting it back into nothing and then putting it back into a warning. So they're having a little back end issue, and they'll get that fixed. But just wanted to let that know.
If you can use a microphone, please.
It's a sheriff.
I was late getting here because I've been moving my stuff out of my apartment all day because we're right, on the edge of this thing. But I have a question. I wanted to know why it doesn't look like anybody's really trying to put it out. And it really doesn't look like it. Has this question already been answered, or? I see guys standing around doing a lot of stuff, but I don't see a lot of stuff going on.
Okay, so we'll answer your question, and then we need to get to some online people who are waiting for their questions, but we will definitely answer yours right now.
Yeah, ma'am, no, we are working to put it out, period. You're verging on disrespectful, and I ask you to stop. Thank you. Okay, and with that, thank you for coming tonight, and have a good evening.
Do we have any online questions we can answer?
Yes. So I have one for the sheriff, and then I have 3 for operations. So the first one is, what about our livestock? How do we get to them, the ones that we aren't able to get to?
Okay, the livestock. So we have a program in the county called the Livestock Pass, which is a training that you take obviously prior to any emergency. Goes over fire behavior, all the things that you need to be aware of in a safety situation. Anyways, there's more to it. But essentially what that enables you to do is during a fire, if it's safe, you can go to a checkpoint or an area that's closed off and get permission to go in and take care of livestock and things that are going on your property. So that's a great program. For people that didn't do that, just once again with the considerations of the escort, we're trying to allow people to get in and do things with our assistance because again, with the livestock training, we essentially are signing you off that you've taken the appropriate course and been through all the training, and that we can trust you to be on the property, doing the right things. There's all kinds of other information, but so it doesn't matter if you either have a livestock pass now or you don't. If you don't, just recognize that we'll still try to help you out the best we can with anything you have. If you have large animals that need to be, for example, evacuated, we need to know that so we can make arrangements to help you. If you need to get in to water, feed, whatever, we will do that as well. We'll help you out the best we can. So again, we're trying to do all we can to serve.
Okay, and the second online question.
So the three, I'm going to go ahead and read them all, and then you can address them together. The first one is they want to know more about Kellum's Lane, and they've been evacuated, and they'd like to know what's being done in that area. The second one is North Kidder Creek, if you could talk a little bit about that. And the last one is why can't we fly crews in to those areas that are hard to get to?
Okay, for the first one, I would need to be a little bit more general. I don't know exactly where Heller Lane is. What is it? Keller Lane. Kellum Lane.
Extends off of Highway 3.
Okay. Can we repeat that question one more time, Lynn?
Yeah, they'd like to know about the what's being done for the 98 homes that were evacuated on Kellum's Lane.
Okay, what's being done for the 98 homes that have been, as far as we have, again, full suppression strategy. We have folks on the line. And currently I went over the operational strategy where we have people directly on the line and built containment lines outside. Currently, as we're looking, it's easier for me to look from the other side, sorry. Oh, in Kidder Creek. Right now, the fire is being secured on this eastern edge of the fire, if this is what we're talking about in Keller Lane. We do have the fire brought down out to our containment lines. So if it's right on the containment line, it is actually the safest part, because now we've got a line between the fire and the fuel, and we have folks on there staffing it right now, keeping it from pushing further that way. Sorry?
Flying crews in.
Oh, we actually, when we first got here, we did fly crews in. We flew crews into the top to try to secure it, to keep it from coming up over the back side. Currently, we are evaluating flying crews out this way, out of between Kidder Creek and Mill Creek, and putting them up on the hill to corral the fire here. Back in where it's threatening the community the most, there's really no place to fly crews in because we have a lot of really good road access. And so if we're flying them in, we're putting them further at risk. So we're able to drive them in. And as John said, we've set up spike camps down here by Mule Bridge and Idlewild where they get better access there. So really, realistically, as it becomes necessary to fly crews further into the wilderness, we will do so. But currently, right now, we're also dependent upon air quality. So we fly crews in there while the air is clear. And we all know how when the aversion sets in, it's hard, we can't even fly aircraft to fight the fire. So that puts our firefighters out for extended periods of time, and we have to be able to logistically support them with food and water and tools and that sort of thing.
And the last one is Kidder Creek, North Kidder Creek.
Okay, so the status of North Kidder Creek, we have a containment line over the top there. We've also brought firefighters up and building containment line coming up from Kidder Creek proper up to meet and tie in with the dozer line that we have up top. So we currently have firefighters on the line there securing those lines.
Thank you. That's all of them.
Thanks, Chief. So let's go back to this side. Are there any questions to my left? Okay, and on this side, on your left? Nate or Lynn, you got a microphone.
Yeah, I got some questions, mostly on information. I live right across from Valley Pines Drive, Patterson Creek. Okay, the whole west side of the highway was evacuated. And nothing at our house. Nobody said anything. We watched them, everybody leave, and nobody come by and let us know what was going on. Until today, they finally put us on the evacuation list.
Okay, are you speaking to fire information in the community or notifications on evacuations?
Well, on both. There's no real communication as to what is going on with the fire or where it is.
Okay, that's a good statement. So this morning we really wrapped up. We've been ordering resources. We actually have 18 public information officers helping us as of today. We've got 10 more on order, and we've put a slew of sandwich boards out along 3 and in the communities that aren't evacuated. And so I think you're going to see a lot of change. We've got an update every morning that's being posted to those boards with a map. And then if you do have access to social media, there's constant operational updates is there. So hopefully you'll see that improvement in the ramp up we've started this week.
Well, we need better things. We need like not Russian Peak or Whiskey Butte or whatever. We need to know how far the fire is from Highway 3 in miles.
Okay, that's good information. And we'll make those adjustments, so thank you.
You know, because everybody doesn't know where those places are. And I still don't know what's going on at my place.
Okay, we hear you, and we really hope you see that increased presence because we've really ramped it up. And I hear your comments of how close it is to homes and get a little more information on that. So I hope you're pleasantly surprised with what you see the rest of this week. We've got time for 2 more questions. We've really got to get some of these people back out to the fire line. And that doesn't mean we're all leaving. After we do close the meeting, several of us will be here. You can come up to the map and ask additional questions. But for right now, just 2 more.
This hasn't been mentioned, but have any structures been lost?
No structures lost. You got it.
My question is to the people that aren't seeing any improvement. What have you done to not notice that there's more equipment in this valley right now than we've ever seen in the past? There's over 2,000 firefighters. And have you done your homework? Did you make your home hardened? Are you supporting the fire staff by not being a rubbernecker or not getting out when it's time to evacuate? And get educated. Do some fire classes or something so you're not knocking these guys that are risking their lives for us. And they've done a hell of a job, and we've never seen this kind of corroboration between the different divisions before.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to us. The encouragement really helps these guys going, and we share that with the crews out there, and they really do appreciate that. So that's the last question we're going to take collectively here. But like I said, as we conclude, please come up. We'll get the rest of your questions answered, and thanks again for coming tonight.